Hi, I've made a couple of videos over the last couple of weeks talking about this mortising machine I've made, but it occurred to me the other day that I haven't actually shown you it cutting a mortise, so today I'm going to do that. But before I do that, can I start with a funny story? This is not the first time I've started to record this video. I actually started about an hour ago and I recorded, I don't know, maybe about 10 minutes of it. And there are a couple of places where I lost my train of thought and I knew it wasn't going right, so I went and took the camera off the tripod and I took the memory card out and I took it upstairs, I popped it in the computer and I had a look at it, and sure enough it was rubbish, so I erased it and I came back down to do it again. Now the second time I did a fantastic job. I was really happy with, shall I call it, my performance. But anyway, I finished and then I walked over to take the camera off the tripod and it said no image. So I thought, oh my God, I've forgotten to press the start button. So anyway, I thought, that's okay, we can do all that again. So, third time lucky, I pressed the start button, I came over here, I started talking to the camera. It wasn't a great performance, but it was okay. I would have been happy with it. So I went back to the camera. This time when I had a look on the back, it said memory card error. So hopefully fourth time lucky. Anyway, enough of that drivel. Let me start to talk about the mortising machine. First of all, why am I bothering to do it? And why would I take a couple of weekends to do something like this? Well, first of all, because it's fun. I like making stuff out of wood. And it doesn't have to be anything useful, as my wife would call it, like furniture. Making a machine that can make other stuff, to me, is interesting as well. The second reason I made it is that the mortise and tenon joint, in my opinion, is probably one of those fundamental joints that you can't do without. There are certain jobs that it does, and it does it so much better than any other type of joint. And typically the one that comes to mind to me is making tables and putting the apron onto the leg. So when you do that, you're putting a piece of wood onto a piece of wood like that. And what that means is this piece of wood down here has got a tremendous amount of leverage on the piece of wood at the top. So that joint has to be very, very strong. So a mortise and tenon joint provides that strength. If I can find one that fits. So to me, as I said, I think it's an essential joint that you absolutely need to know how to make. So that's why I'm making it. The traditional way of doing it, of course, was to use a bunch of tools like these, and a pencil, and then you mark it all out and you start to use your chisel on it. And some people are very, very good at doing that, particularly old carpenters who've been doing it all their lives. I wasn't. It's as simple as that. And I realised very early in the piece I just didn't have the patience or dedication to learn how to do it properly. So one of the things I discovered earlier was a thing called a doweling jig, which allows you to use dowels instead of mortise and tenon joints, and that's a lot more quick to use and the results are quite good. It only has one major failure, and that is that it's not a very strong joint because it just relies on small pieces of wood to hold everything in place. So fairly early in the piece I gave that away, and I found that I just avoided making anything that required a joint like that. So there's plenty of other stuff you can make. You don't need to make tables, but when I saw the design for this on YouTube, I thought, well, that's something I can make and I can go back to making tables again. That one, by the way, I made a little bit earlier as a practice run for today, and I wanted to see how long it took, and it took 2 minutes and 19 seconds. That was from the time I picked up the first bit of timber. None of the settings on the mortising machine were set, so I had to start off from scratch for everything. So the only things that have been done is the timber, of course, has been dimensioned and cut to length. So for this next demonstration, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and put in another apron over this side and show you how easy that is to do. So you'll notice that when I'm routing, I have these small index marks on the wood over here, and the idea of that is that so when the line on the table gets to the first one, I know that I've hit the surface of the piece of material that I'm working on. So then I go in a little bit further, and depending on the sort of wood that I'm routing, I might go in only maybe half a notch, or I might go in a full notch, and then I sweep across and back again, Then I go a little bit further across and back again, a little bit further until I've done the whole thing. You don't really need to have that, but I just I find it convenient and I know exactly where I am at in the operation. The first thing we have to do is set the height of the table, and I found the easiest way to do this was to use an existing piece as a reference. So given that I've already cut one of the aprons, I just put the tenon in there and then I slide it into the slot. I loosen these off and then I raise the table till it sits home. That's set the height of the table. Now we can set the stop at the side by doing the same thing with the stop block. We'll just put that into place and we should be ready to go. If I can just find the piece that we're about to cut. Okay, so here's our new apron. So we just slide it into place, up against the stop block, and then we'll adjust one of these clamps on here, and we'll put the other one on the other side. Now, you might recall if you watched the last video I made that I made some disparaging remarks about these clamps. I'd seen them in a woodworker magazine and made a couple of them, and the third time I used one of them it broke. Well, you're about to hear something that not many people have heard me say before, and in fact I don't think my wife has ever heard me say it, but I was wrong. The fault was mine in that my bandsawing skills are very poor, and I just simply made them too thin. So I've since made this other one here, this is a new one, and I made it a little bit thicker. It is fantastic. It doesn't look like breaking, and it holds things nice and securely. Okay, so now that we've got everything in place, we're ready to cut. So I'll just move the camera and we can do that. I'm not sure what sort of view you're going to get from there because you might be looking over my shoulder, but you're just going to have to take it from me that it's all legit. First thing I have to do is turn on the dust collector, then I'll turn this on. You might want to put some earmuffs on because it's pretty noisy. But first on with the safety goggles and the earmuffs. And there we have it, one perfectly cut mortise. So now it's time to cut the mortise for the leg. So we use a very similar procedure. So the first thing we're going to set is the height of the table. So I put a tenon into the mortise. Then I'll just move the stop block out of the way. Then I lower the table to allow the extra room because I'm going to have some offset for the apron in from the side of the leg. Then I raise the table till it meets the bottom, so now we know they're perfectly aligned. I tighten the table up. Then we have to set the horizontal alignment. So to do that, I'm going to remove the tenon and go back to the apron, and I'll slide that in place, move the stop block up against it, tighten the stop block, remove that, then go back and grab the leg, put the leg in place, then put the clamps on, helps if you have them around the right way. There's one in place. Now the other one. And now we'll cut this and see how it all fits together. Okay, so once again, same drill. On with the safety gear. Turn on the dust collector. And there we have it. You might have noticed there a bit of dust came out the back, and that was because one of the mortises ran into the back of the other one. So we might have a clearance problem with the tenon. I'll just have to try it and see. Let's have a look. No, in fact it looks pretty good to me. I would say that that's perfect. So there's the end result. Everything's square, I believe. Everything's nice and tight, nothing falls out. A bit of glue and 24 hours to set, and that ain't going nowhere. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed that, and thanks for watching.